remain far apart heading into the second week of training camp and are not currently negotiating. And that's kind of a follow-up to a report I saw from Adam Schefter yesterday as well, that these two are not talking at all. Micah Parsons has been out there at training camp. He has been participating. But this is a deal that the Cowboys have known they needed to have done for a long, long time, yet are making no efforts to get that done with their star pass rusher.
He's in the final year of his rookie deal. Parsons has proven that he's one of the best defenders in the league. I don't understand what goes on in Dallas, where this isn't the first time. Ezekiel Elliott, Zach Martin, CeeDee Lamb, they all had massive contract disputes with the Cowboys, and it would be different. Maybe if you're like a Trayvon Diggs who's coming off a torn ACL and your season was ended early, and now we have to see how you come back from injury. We're talking about somebody who anybody in the league would go for, in having a player that has been on the field, who's been impactful on the field. Micah Parsons has been on a Cowboys team that has been riddled with quarterback injuries, not living up to their expectations. He should be treated like all the other star defenders were this offseason. So when you see Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, maybe even on the Bengals side, Trey Hendrickson, when you see these guys get paid, and now I can't even believe, Stormy, that he's still in a rookie deal, because Micah Parsons has been that impactful for the Cowboys and the NFL as a whole.
Oh, yeah, he's been unbelievable since entering the league. And I know we heard Jerry Jones on the podium last week talking about the games he's missed, although the actual number was 4, not the 6 that he cited. But, like, talking about how, hey, somebody could get hit by a car tomorrow. Sure, Jerry, but I don't think anybody anticipates that. And when you're doing contracts in the league, when you're drafting players in general, everything is about projection, right? And risk. And so that's just what the name of the game is in the National Football League. And you pay guys when they're due and when it's their turn. And why is this contract going to be as lucrative as it is for Micah Parsons whenever and wherever he signs it? Because you waited so long and let the market inflate. That's why we're at this point. Also, I mentioned Washington Commander star wide receiver Terry McLaurin. He has been openly frustrated with his deal, held out the first 4 days of camp before ultimately reporting on Sunday to hold in. Per reports, there's been no movement toward a deal for him either, which has now escalated to McLaurin formally asking for a trade out of Washington. Dan Graziano this morning reported that, quote, there's a big difference of opinion on what he should be making. McLaurin sees DK Metcalf from his same draft class making $33 million a year on his deal with Pittsburgh, but Washington saying that feels high for a 30-year-old player. If you want more than Metcalf, you're nearing Justin Jefferson territory, which they're not willing to do.
We're at the point where we have hypothetical odds for McLaurin's next team, and the Commanders are still favored in the hypothetical odds at minus 250. The Patriots, they're interesting. The Chargers, 49ers. If there's anybody that wants to somehow pick up the Terry McLaurin contract and offer him an extension, you could do so. You look at the 49ers. They just paid Brock Purdy. They traded Debo to Washington. There's no timetable for for Brandon Ayuk. The Chargers, Mike Williams had the surprise retirement, and they only really have Ladd McConkey. The Patriots, Stephon Diggs, he's on 1 to 2 years because of his contract, but that's not long term. If you're a team that wants a receiver like those three, and McLaurin and win a Super Bowl, I would absolutely have my ears ready with my agent, hoping to see if maybe somebody else can even at least get the Commanders to talk and realize what they have.
Well, I am 100% sure that other teams would be interested, but to deal. And Adam Peters, from what at least the reports that I've seen so far, that he might not even be entertaining the possibility of a trade. And I wouldn't blame him, especially when you think about what a primary option he has been for him on Money Moves. When we come back, the MLB trade deadline has come and gone, and we saw a flurry of massive moves. Getting into it all coming up after this.
Choose one team each week with no point spread. The last one standing wins it all.
We have $21 million on the line. Are you in? Visit circusports.com for details.
On the next Friday MLB slate, I'm Jeff Erickson. Tune in to Friday's edition of Prop Points at 2 p.m. Eastern, only on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
The quest for 14 points back-to-back is over. Come on, baby!
Nobody could see this one coming.
No way the number one pick goes down in week number 2, but it did. This is even mid-season.
Catch the season premiere August 5th, 9 p.m. Eastern, only on VSiN.
Edition of Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, alongside Ariel Epstein today. Stormy Buonantony with you. And the MLB trade deadline created a bit of
Carlos Correa going back to Houston. I knew the rumblings were happening. I heard all my friends talking about how the move could happen, but I didn't, until something actually comes to fruition, you don't believe it. When the news broke that it actually was going to be Carlos Correa back to the Houston Astros, it just felt so right. I was happy. I felt like I know him, that I was happy that Carlos Correa is leaving this disaster in Minnesota and going back to Houston. Now, it's interesting because he can't play shortstop because they already have one, so he's going to play third. Jesus Sanchez also goes to Houston. Ramon Urias also goes to Houston. So I think Houston did a decent job. I was excited. I thought maybe there was a chance Dylan Cease would leave the Padres to go to Houston. My only concern about the Astros is the starting rotation. They only have 2 starting pitchers they can really rely on. Ultimately, this lineup got better, though. And the Astros, which is funny, they won a World Series off of pitching a few years ago. Now they're focused more on, I guess, their offense, trying to produce so that they don't have to rely so much on this starting rotation, that outside the first 2, is a little iffy. But Stormy, I do think that the Astros could be a decent play because right now in the odds, they're 10-1. And I don't really like to bet futures at anything less than 10-1 when I have to sit on it for, 3-4 months. It's not a bad play for an experienced team.
Yeah, he can get the double digits. He was willing to waive the no trade clause that he had with Minnesota to go back to the team that drafted him number 1 overall in 2012. Obviously won that World Series in 2017. Money-wise, he's in the third season of a 6-year deal. Minnesota's going to cover around $30 million to get out from under the roughly $100 million Correa is owed. And you mentioned the dumpster fire of the Twins. Complete fire sale in Minnesota. The Twins traded away 10 of their 26 active roster players. Correa, obviously the most shocking of the bunch, but it is a brutal situation out there in Minnesota right now.
And it's funny because I was talking about this on the Prop Queen pod last night. Let's not forget how bad the books messed up. They favored this Minnesota team to win the division preseason. I remember looking at that saying, oh, that's the division I'm targeting. It was between the Tigers or the Royals for me, and I ended up on the Tigers because everybody and their mother liked the Royals. I loved that the Tigers had experience with A.J. Hinch. They had great pitching. I never understood how the Minnesota Twins were favored to win this division, especially after a Cleveland Guardians team like last year ended up winning it and winning the AL. It made no sense. The books were completely off. The Twins are in 4th place of the division, 51-57 record, 12 games back of the division. They're a disaster, and it's very sad because on paper, they were supposed to be better.
Yeah, one of your losers, I'm sure, on your list of winners and losers post-trade deadline. Yeah. Why don't you take us through the rest of the teams? Who did you think did really, really well at the deadline, and who were you disappointed in?
The Seattle Mariners obviously won the trade deadline. They did the best of everybody by far. I mean, you got Josh Naylor. Then you go and get the biggest hitter out there, Eugenio Suarez. You've got some great pitching as well. That lineup, 1 through 7, is absolutely lethal. And then the pitching, even your young pitchers are doing well. So I really love the Mariners. And they also, I'd say the only knock on them is that they didn't add like an impactful reliever. He got lefty Caleb Ferguson